Hello, my name is Tarmack, and let me show you the Technomancer. It's a game developed by Spiders, published by Focus Home Interactive, comes out on June 28th on Steam for $45 US. Let's load into a game here real quick. Now, Technomancer is a third-person sci-fi RPG that takes place on Mars. You start out as a Technomancer initiate shortly before being officially promoted into the Order as an officer, lieutenant, something. Technomancers are kind of like Sentinels in Mass Effect. They've got that combat angle, but then there's also sort of this tech magic sort of thing going on. Actually, this whole game kind of reminds me of sort of a budget Mass Effect title, but I haven't seen any Krogan just yet. So you start off, and you can do some character customization. You can change the hair, you can change the face, a lot of those different bits and pieces, which is good to see for sure. There aren't any female characters, just male. I've seen a little bit of drama on the Technomancer community boards about that, which, you know, I understand. I do. Not everything is that. Not every game is something where you can just plunk in any character and it works. It just depends on how you wrote the game. And, if that means people don't want to buy your game because you didn't put in women characters, then so be it. That's just life. It doesn't need the drama. Whenever you're putting on different gear, you do have some different changes that are going on in the character. The appearance does matter. It's very, very simple as far as what gear is better than the other, but so be it. And being an RPG, there are other things that you can customize as well. You will have your inventory, and you also have these 4 different tech trees that you get to go down in order to upgrade your attacks. And the 4 different trees follow 3 different combat stances plus Technomancy. So Technomancy is kind of its own thing. And the 3 different combat stances, you can kind of focus on one, or you can build into all of them. It depends on how you want to play the game. So let's show off some of that combat now. Just going to pop forward here.
There are looters gathered at the dome's entrance. A lot of them, but they're not equipped to be more than a nuisance.
Take care nonetheless, Zachariah. That guard there, separated from his group. Sneak on him and the battle will be easily won.
All right. Now, if I sound frustrated for whatever reason, please excuse me. This is the 3rd time that I've had to record this video due to various technical faults that I will all blame on OBS. It couldn't possibly have been my fault personally as a human being. And actually, you know what? Given that I've recorded this 3 times, I'm seeing something on the screen, which is a problem I wanted to identify that I didn't actually have show up. You see over there, right above the character's head, we've got an NPC that's walking. I'll come back to that later. He's gotten to the end of his path. He's found his place, and he's just going to stand there and walk and walk and walk. Anyways, we'll talk about that in a minute. So, combat. The game has no verticality. So I'm here, I'm at the edge of a cliff. I have to press E to climb down. I can't just jump down. It doesn't work that way. You have to actively choose to use the interactable cliff. So we're going to do that. That's fine. Once you get into battle, you can't use interactables like that until the battle is over, until you're out of combat, so to speak. So we hit F on the keyboard. We're going to go ahead and we're going to stealth in and do a fancy little surprise attack. A little bit of frame drop going on there, as we've had every other time I've gotten to this section. Give him a little zap to the head. And we'll start off with our staff combat stance. Wow, that actually turned out really well. The others didn't even come over. Brilliant. Normally, the rest of the NPCs over there will attack. So, I'll explain the stances while I've got a little bit of a combat reprieve. Down the bottom left, you've got 3 different hotkeys, Z, X, and C, or Z, X, and C, depending on how you pronounce your Zs. The Z one is a staff. Now, I currently have it electrified, and I'll explain that in a minute too. But you've also then got a dagger and gun combo, and a shield and club, or in this case it appears to be a monkey wrench, but of course that would change as you upgrade your weapons. And you can swap out these different stances on the fly depending on how you want to fight. Now, being as there's no jump, spacebar of course has to be reassigned to other things, so let's go get into some fighting and I'll show that off. So the left mouse button is just a basic jab, basic attack, reasonably quick. It does have some variety, but just, again, fairly basic. The right mouse button is a dodge. you can just dodge to the side, you can dodge back and forward, however you want to handle it. And it does have some invincibility frames during the dodge, which is great to see. And then you've also got spacebar, which is going to be a kick, sort of a stun. I gotta make sure I don't die here because I don't want to have to go through this section again. You've also got the left control, which is an AoE attack. So each of the different weapons have those same sets of different kinds of attacks that you can do. They don't all do exactly the same thing, but they do all have 3 different sets that you can deal with. So let's say we swap over to our dagger. I'm just going to heal up really quick so I don't want to die. It's embarrassing to die in a video. All right, can I stealth in? Nobody going to see me? Brilliant. Zap to the head. All right, so I'm fighting with the dagger. Just got to stay, a little bit clear of their attacks. They even got that little slowdown on kill kind of mechanic, which is nice to see. But the dagger and gun does give you a little bit of range, so if you want to pop off a shot while you've got somebody that's not quite next door, you can do that, which is grand. But one thing that you'll notice about the combat, and this is something that I enjoy so far, is that it kind of has this sort of, it's got a dance feeling to it. Like there's a fluidity to it, there's an elegance to the way that the combat is designed to run. And I like that part. I find that to be quite interesting. So let's talk about the other bits down on the bottom left. On number 1, 2, 3, and 4, we've got a couple of different rebindables. You can rebind up to 9. If you hold down tab, or hit tab rather, you're going to have the different things that you can bind to the different keys. So you just mouse over what you want, hit the key you want to bind it to, and there it's bound. We've got our Technomancer abilities here on the first page. We've got Electric Arc, which is just a straight up electrical attack, kind of a Force Lightning, Emperor Palpatine kind of thing. We've got Electric Weapon, which is just exactly as it sounds. It's electrifying the weapon that you're using. And then you can do other things as well. Combat abilities, items. So in this case, we've got ourselves some Focus Injection and Health Injection, which are up here. We've got our health bar in red, and we've got our focus bars, sort of hexagons, focus hexagons, I guess we could say, in blue. And you'll notice we got the icon is the same here between our electrified weapon and our focus. So if you choose to electrify your weapon, like I have with the staff or whatever weapon I've got out, it means that I have only half of the focus right now because my electrified weapon is taking up one of the focus bars that I've got. If I turn that off, you'll see the second focus bar can start filling up. So I could now use that to be able to do more of my Force Lightning and try and zap people a whole bunch instead of having my weapon electrified. So you kind of make your choice on how you want to deal with it. Tactics-wise, are you more into combat? Would you rather just electrify the weapon and beat them to death with an electric staff? Or do you like the idea of, a bit more of an electric from a distance kind of combat style? Personally, my favorite so far has been the staff. I like the kick. I like the little, sort of stun thing that goes on. It's absolutely brilliant. Seems to have a bit of range on it, which is nice. And of course, when you've got a buddy that's using a staff as well, it's always nice. Nice and easy. See, just like that. So other than that, when you're out in combat, you've got the enemies where you can loot them. And something that I'd like to suggest for the developers, I'm playing on a pre-release build with this, but the game comes out tomorrow. I'm recording this the day before. This is on the 27th. I feel like the precision in order to loot is a little bit off. I think it could be expanded a bit. You'll get to a place where, okay, why do I need to face in just the right direction? It's a little bit frustrating. But other than that, there's also chests that you can open. But again, a mild criticism on this, it doesn't ever tell you that there are chests that need to be opened. So you could miss out on some of these things. The game has a couple of those bits and pieces that it could help with, but relatively minor. So let's take a look at something a little bit more interesting on the combat side of things. I'll load up another save game here and show this off. You're also using your WASD to move, as you would expect. And that was a pretty reasonable loading time, so that's certainly good on them for keeping the loading times down between save games. So here we've got a bunch of different bugs. We're going to whomp with our, bug zapper stick. And then we're going to have our Dark Souls moment. Now, some people have commented that the game looks like it plays like Dark Souls. Now, I've played a lot of Dark Souls, and I think I'm willing to say that it sort of plays a little like Dark Souls does sometimes. So you've got that same dodge mechanic, you've got that same invincibility frames during the dodge, you've got, a lot of that attempting to be precision attacks and whatnot, great big boss fights, that kind of thing. There is some, truth to that idea. And when you actually get into the combat, that's where it becomes maybe a little bit more of a stark reminder that this is not Dark Souls. Because the precision isn't quite there. Oh. I missed that dodge. That was absolutely atrocious. So, of course, we've got this sort of soft spot in the center here. Gotta make sure you get in and get out really quick. Now, one of the unfortunate parts about the game is the AI. So you'll notice that I'm just sort of standing here. I don't know if this boss is blind or something along those lines. But where's the AI? Guys, what's going on here? Is this supposed to be challenging? This is part of the problem, and this is the same idea as I was mentioning earlier with that NPC that was just kind of wandering around, or rather continuing to walk but standing still. It's a bit of a problem. Still, though, I do like the idea of the big boss encounters. I like the idea of a giant praying mantis. It is kind of neat. There is some challenge to this when you're trying to, duck in and get the hell out. Keeping out of the way of the big strikes and whatnot. There is certainly some fun to be had, and it looks pretty good. So now, we're going to hop back to a different area. I want to show off a little bit. We're going to talk about some of the problems that the game has, as well as the options and the performance to go along with it. Now, problems I mentioned is just a general level, I'm going to say a general level of lack of polish, more than anything else. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This feels like a budget Mass Effect title, more than anything else to me. Yeah, it's got a little bit of that Dark Souls in it, but the way that it looks, the way that everything is so sparse. I mean, doesn't this, if you take and shine this up a little bit, it looks like some of the areas that they had in Mass Effect. It's that same kind of humanity in space sort of thing, but with such a sparse NPC design. I don't know. That's a problem to me. And the other thing is the performance. So right now, just to show this off really quick, what I've got, we've got everything set on high right now, or ultra, as it were. And depending on where you're standing, of course, and what you're looking at, you will have vastly different performance. And for some reason, and this is where it strikes me as a little bit bizarre, we have SSAO, which is something that is giving us a rather substantial frame per second drop. In the area of probably close to 10 frames a second, it's dropping by itself at little spots like near this staircase for no real apparent reason. Like we're not in some crazy area with tons of things going on. You get to the bottom of the staircase, we're back up to 60 frames per second. This is an issue for me. Something's not quite right here. Now, I should mention the rig that I'm running this game on, and I'll put it in the description as well so you can see it. It's always there on any one of these first impressions or my reviews. It's an i7 5820K, mostly for rendering, and a GTX 970. So we're not on the top of the line anymore, of course, because, 980 Ti has been out forever, and the 10 series video cards have just come out. So now I'm behind the times. I still should be able to get really, really good performance in just about every game that's coming out on Ultra at 1080p. I'm not playing on 4K resolution or anything like that. All I want, 60 frames per second. That's seems reasonable to me, and yet we're not getting it. It's not here. Now, if I go back into the options and I go ahead and I turn off SSAO, and if I recall correctly, turn the shadows down to low, we're still seeing drops down close to 10 frames per second. No, we're down. Oh, there we go. Sub 50. And we got the shitty shadows. So I don't know. Something feels wrong with this. I'm not an expert when it comes to, this graphic setting causes this frame per second drop and all that kind of. I don't know. I know that SSAO has a performance impact. I've not experienced it such as this. I've not had this much of an impact before, and it's very frustrating to me to see that. So options. Let's go through these really quick. Game options. Under keyboard and mouse, all of this stuff is rebindable, which is excellent. Thank you very much. Make sure you keep that up. Gamepad, not so much. You're stuck with it, which is too bad. And of course, being as it's only the Xbox controls, thank you very much for not giving us an option to, make it look like a DualShock 4. That'd be lovely. That's what I play with. Camera sensitivity and Y-axis swapping, as well as vibration in the case of the people that are using console controllers. Game options, you can change the difficulty as you're playing, which is great. You can turn on or off tutorials, subtitles, all of that kind of good stuff. Changing your volume settings individually, as you would expect. And back under video. So we've got windowed, borderless windowed, and full screen. They are all available. I'm not going to switch it because it'll screw things up. We've got 1080p as the high end for video that it's giving me for an option, and all the way down to 640 by 480, a resolution I have not seen in probably 15 years. VSync, SSAA on the interface specifically. Fair number of shadow options. Again, SSAO, high and normal. Anti-aliasing, we only have TAA and FXAA. Other than that, it's disabled. Particle options, texture quality, and anisotropic filtering all the way up to 16x, which is fairly common these days, as I guess you would expect. Dynamic resolution, I don't have a lot of experience with. As I understand it, it's supposed to be that it is trading out pixels for frames. So instead of dropping frames, it's going to drop pixels. I have played with this in all settings. I've tried it mid, I've tried it at the high end, and I have had no change whatsoever. So if that's what it's supposed to do, it ain't doing it. And then we finish off with a field of view slider. Field of vision in this case. And your usual brightness settings. So the only other thing that I wanted to show off before I really close this up and summarize this, it is an RPG, right? So of course there's going to be a dialogue system. Let's talk with our merchant friend over here.
It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Big on weaponry, I hope. What can I get you?
So the dialogue system is very simple, but I will say that the voice acting is pretty reasonable. We're not dealing with a lot of garbage voices.
I was expecting a caravan in the stall next door.
It can be a bit cliched at times, but so be it. So without spoiling anything and the story and how all of this stuff works, let's close this one up. This is the Technomancer. It is an interesting title with potential, I will say. Graphical quality is good, but the areas are really sparse. I mean, this is a market. Where are all the people? I mean, maybe that's part of the performance problem. I don't know. I could be wrong. The combat has a lot of room for customization, and you can really choose how you play, swapping between the different styles. And it has that fluidity of motion where it feels like a dance. It feels like, you know, somebody who is a fairly elite trained kind of combat person. Like I like that. I really like the elegance of it. But the AI can be more than a little stupid at times, like we saw with the giant mantis, like we saw with that NPC that was just standing there while walking in place. That's some pretty basic stuff. You know, these are things that are just not quite polished. Like I mentioned, it's just, the game has so much potential, but then it's rough. It's rough around the edges. The dialogue can be really cliched and cringeworthy, but it's a dystopian setting on Mars. Of course it's going to be cliched. That kind of goes with the territory. And I really do like the massive boss creatures. I think that's an awesome addition. You know, not everything is just another person. $45 feels like a bit on the expensive side. That's the price that it's going to be launching with on the 28th of June. Do I recommend this game? Yes, with a caveat. If you're the kind of person, and I'm going to go back to the Mass Effect example. If you're the kind of person who liked Mass Effect because of the AAA polish, you liked the absolute gold standard voice acting, you liked that everything was just perfect. In the later Mass Effects, granted, the first one was kind of rough, but if that's what you liked about Mass Effect, then no, you're not going to really get on with this title. But if you like the setting, if it was the setting and the structure and the way that the game initially presented itself, then you know what? Yeah, this is a game that has some real potential for it. It's got that potential, but it's missing the polish. It's rough around the edges, and it's cheaper for it. Developers, Spiders, that's what an odd name for a company, I don't know, but they've said that the game is 25 to 30 hours long. If that's true, and you're okay with that, you know, again, rough kind of game design, not quite polished to a crystal shine, yeah, $45 sounds like it might be okay. I'm having fun with it. I don't know how long it's going to keep my attention, but we'll see. We'll have to wait and see. So again, Technomancer, the Technomancer, developed by Spiders, published by Focus Home Interactive, comes out on Steam June 28th, which is tomorrow or today if you're watching this video on the 28th, and it's $45. My name's Tarmack. This has been a Let Me Show You First Impressions video. It is not a review. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.